Moses and Aaron go to see Pharaoh to ask that the Israelites be allowed to go on a 3-day trip to make a sacrifice to their God. Pharaoh refuses. So the battle of the gods commences. For the first few plagues, the Egyptian magicians can replicate the plague, but they can't stop it. Ha ha! Ha. Then the plagues start just affecting the Egyptians, but the Israelites are kept safe. At various points, Pharaoh offers to let the people go as long as Moses and Aaron stop the plague. But then changes his mind once the plague has gone. Now, it's important to note that these plagues aren't just random. There is at first a kind of natural order in that the problems with the Nile lead to the frogs hopping off out of the Nile and then dying, which in turn leads to gnats and flies, which in turn leads to disease, which kills the livestock and gives the people a horrible skin disease. However, even more significant than this is the fact that each of the plagues reveals God's supremacy over the so-called gods of Egypt. So, for example, the problems with the Nile show God's supremacy over the Nile god Hapi. The frog was also seen as a god, so the uncontrollable invasion and then death of the frogs showed this god up too. Similarly, there was a god of pestilence shown up by the invasion of gnats and then flies. The bull was in fact the chief god, again proved completely impotent through the death of the livestock. The people got horrible skin infections, then their crops were damaged through the hail and the locusts, showing God's supremacy over the god of their crops. Then darkness shows God's supremacy over the sun god Ra, and then ultimately even the god of the firstborn is shown up and rendered powerless by the death of the firstborn. And so God proves, not just to the Israelites, but also to the Egyptians, that he really is the true God and that his power is infinitely greater than the so-called gods of other nations. Thus, in Exodus 9 verses 15, God says to Pharaoh,
"For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been cut off from the earth. But this is why I have let you live, to show you my power, and to make my name resound through all the earth."
What do we learn from this?